All right, more New York politics now. And first up, another New York politician arrested today, but not for the reason so many others have been arrested recently. City public advocate and Democratic mayoral candidate Bill de Blasio arrested today as he protested the pending closure of Brooklyn's Long Island University Hospital. De Blasio, who later thanked the cops who cuffed him and processed him, blocked the doors of the hospital. That led to his arrest. De Blasio saying the hospital closure will make residents sicker. Other candidates, John Liu and Anthony Weiner, were also at today's protest. Neither blocked the doors and neither was arrested. So much for the Bill de Blasio can't get arrested line. Just curious, is this a gimmick on his part just to try to get some attention, get the clip on the air, or?
When you're in fourth place in the polls, you better do something fast. As Christine Quinn has argued against de Blasio, it's a publicity stunt. It worked. We're talking about him.
Mr. Chairman, you agree?
Look, the problem of hospitals in Brooklyn and Queens is huge. Too many hospitals. Some need to be closed, consolidated. The State University, which I was finance chair, I understand the problem. They took this over really under duress, and it's draining the State University. It does need to be closed. He's doing this just to get publicity.
Dominic, de Blasio really does seem to be taking the outer borough perspective on this race. It looks like he's trying to win, focus all of his attention on issues of the outer boroughs. Is that a strategy that can lead to Gracie Mansion?
Absolutely not. And the reason why, if Christine Quinn was not in the race and that guy by the name of Weiner, if they're battling for the same base, and that means de Blasio is in deep, deep trouble. Lou has the same problem. You would think Lou is almost an African-American based on he's Asian-American, based on his campaign stops. He's at every black event in New York, advertising on black radio. But the problem is a guy by the name of Bill Thompson. With Thompson in the race, the black vote's going to Thompson. So Lou and de Blasio, they have problems. I don't understand why they didn't play it safe and stay in their seats, because they're not going to be the next mayor of New York.
All right, we're going to move on, Mr. Chairman. Sit tight for this one, because we head to Albany and the continuing focus on Sheldon Silver, the longstanding Democratic State Assembly Speaker, of course, taking all sorts of hits for his role in seeming to protect disgraced former Assemblyman Vito Lopez, who resigned after being censured by the Assembly for sexually harassing his staffers and doing so in fairly gross ways. But after going for weeks with a bullseye on his back, last week Silver began to fight back against his most vocal critics, particularly one who's sitting at our table tonight. Daily News reporting that Silver aide Michael Weiland ripped State GOP Chairman Ed Cox, an Assembly Republican, saying it's completely hypocritical but not surprising, considering his party's pathetic record when it comes to fighting for women, noting both the GOP's objections to Governor Cuomo's women's equality bills. And they also noted that your law firm, sir, boasts on a website that it represents employers against alleged pregnancy discrimination, sexual harassment, and Equal Pay Act claims. Why target you in trying to defend themselves?
Because he's in trouble. He's in deep trouble. Every major newspaper in New York State, except for the Times-Union, and including the New York Times, has demanded that he resign. We asked for this way back last September, but as the facts came out, what he did, he in fact covered up for the third time during his administration as Speaker that we know of, using hush money with respect to covering up sexual assaults by Assembly people on women in staffers in the legislature. And by doing that, he enabled Vito Lopez to go out and sexually assault other women because he had covered it up. He is the Speaker of the Assembly. He should resign.
But don't you and Republicans, particularly in the Assembly, aren't you open to the charge of hypocrisy for attacking Silver when it comes to the Lopez thing, but also then blocking movement on the women's equality bills?
We were for all 9 of the not
the abortion plank.
Not the abortion, but that's got nothing to do with sexual assault.
But that also scuttled the whole thing.
Look, that is something, a moral issue in which people can differ, whether you're for late-term abortions or not. And that's a moral issue it has, and people can differ on that depending upon their moral values. It's got nothing to do with sexual assaults, my friend.
Wouldn't it have made the challenge to Silver more palatable for people had there not been that objection?
No, not at all. It's a completely separate issue, and you can't say that because people will differ with abortion. What he did, covering up specific assaults by Vito Lopez with respect to women staffers in the Assembly, and he enabled subsequent assaults by Vito Lopez, and it's the third time.
So it's really an abuse of power issue.
It's the third time he did it. Yes, he should be held to a higher standard. He probably, and he has not undergone any ethical probe at all. There's been no official ethical investigation of him, and certainly no criminal investigation. That's why we were asking Cuomo to appoint a special prosecutor in this case. There should be one with respect to Lopez, too. There were criminal laws violated by both Speaker Silver and by Vito Lopez, and yet Vito Lopez is running for city council. Think when he gets elected to city council. Just think of that. Even though what he did in the assembly and the fact that it was a violation of the criminal laws of the state.
You do have Vito Lopez just sitting on a tee for you. Up next, Governor Andrew Cuomo. He's up for re-election in 2014. General consensus is, at least as of right now, he'll cruise to re-election. But recently, Mr. Cox, the state Republican chairman, said his party's got at least 5 candidates who you said you think can challenge Cuomo. Now, here's a look at the 5 people that Chairman Cox mentioned. Take a look. Here's my question. How many people watching know any of the guys on the screen? Take a good look at the faces. I can only get one on site. Turns out the group does include 3 county executives, 1 sitting congressman, and the guy who lost to state comptroller Tom DiNapoli back in 2010. Who are these guys?
They are really good public servants who are serving in Westchester, Onondaga, major counties, and given the right circumstances, they would be able to win the governorship.
Now, I had a little fun with the whole who are these guys and trying to identify them by their photo, but clearly there is a problem in that most of these guys don't have a statewide profile.
Everyone knew Tom Suozzi 4 years ago. No one knew Ed Mangano until he beat Tom Suozzi.
But that was in a county. That was in one county. You're talking about New York State.
Thing. Everyone knew Andy Spano, right? No one really knew Rob Astorino. Well, guess what? Rob Astorino won 4 years ago. A candidate like Rob Astorino, under right circumstances, running against Governor Cuomo could win.
All right, we're going to head back to the city. There is a debate tonight among the 3 Republicans seeking to become the next mayor of New York. Joe Lhota, John Katzimatidis, and George McDonald will all be there. Mr. Chairman, going to try to pinpoint you to a preference in the Republican primary here, noting, as I should point out, that John Katzimatidis is your son's father-in-law.
Andrew, you will not succeed. I love them all. They are all people who have succeeded very well.
You got to face one of them at a family gathering.
They have succeeded in their private lives. John Katzimatidis has done a great job in business. He has been running for mayor now for 5 years. He would have, if Bloomberg had not run for a 3rd term, he would have been the Republican candidate. He's gone to all the Republican events over these years, been at those events. He's paid his dues. Of course, Joe Lhota was actually acting mayor under Rudy Giuliani at certain points during the Giuliani administration. And the McDonald, he starting the Doe Fund, he has been a tremendous success in the Elam Osner area. People who did not have jobs, his organization, about a $70 million a year organization, finds jobs for them.
Tom, would you agree that the Republicans in their primary have gotten far less attention in the mayoral race than the Democratic side? And if so, why?
Well, that's the way it is based on the demographics of New York City. What's interesting, the chair said twice, under the right circumstances, you could win. And I want to know what those right circumstances are.
If the economy is booming, it covers a host of sins, and someone's running for president or for governor or for mayor will win. If the economy goes into a dip, then as they say, when the tide goes out, this is one of Buffett's saying about investment. When the tide goes out, you find out who was swimming naked.
Well, Mr. Chair,
if the tide goes out, we will find that Governor Cuomo has gone swimming naked.
You know what we also call that? A Hail Mary.
No, look, it depends on the economy. You tell me where the economy is, I'll tell you whether a challenger has a chance in any kind of way.
Here's a good argument that he does make. I mean, no one, and I mean no one, gave George Pataki an opportunity. But he was up against Mario Cuomo and, 3 terms, and ABC, anybody but Cuomo. But I just don't see that scenario around. Andrew Cuomo, the former governor's, the son of the icon governor, is considered a rock star who's almost a presidential candidate.
A rock star who's dropped 20 percentage points in the polls.
Sky high numbers.
All right,
and he's still going down.
I want to get to one more New York story, and Mr. Chairman, a friend of the show, we have you on as much as we possibly can, but we haven't had a chance to speak to you since your party invited Texas Senator Ted Cruz to speak at the annual state party dinner a couple of months ago. Cruz, who voted against Sandy Aid for New York. One of the reasons why Long Island Congressman Peter King either skipped the event out of protest or because he had a schedule conflict. And Mr. Cruz, or Senator Cruz, was invited, at least on paper, by you as chairman of the state party. Any regrets about that at all?
No regrets
considering
at all. Ted Cruz has a terrific message of what a state like New York needs for economic growth. We need freer markets here. We need lower taxes. We need less regulation. We're the highest tax state in the United States, most regulated state in the United States, the highest debt per capita in the United States. And he addressed all those points and without notes for more than a half hour to an audience that's on. And by the way, the audience was almost majority minority. There were tables of African Americans, Hispanics, subcontinent Indians, Asians, and there was more energy in that room than I've ever felt at one of our annual dinners.
I
It was a terrific annual
appreciate that
dinner.
he's a dynamic speaker, but the vote against Sandy 8 and the fact that on social issues he is further to the right than most New Yorkers and a lot of New York Republicans as well. Is that really the direction you need your party being pulled at this point?
He gave the message to New York, what New York needs to know about how we should get our economy on the right path. It's an issue of jobs here. We need jobs in New York. And that's what he addressed, and addressed it very effectively.
Not concerned about the social issues.
The social issues, that's not what people are concerned about. Governor Christie, in very liberal, socially liberal New Jersey, is a social conservative. And what's he winning by now? 30 percentage points?
I thank you so much for the assist, because after a quick break, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie planned to do away with the state's affordable housing agency. We're going to explain as we get into some New Jersey political stories next.